So let's have a look. These are pretty bad quality. I might just use this. Copy that. And let's paste it in here. And we'll shrink this a little bit, but not too much. Maybe to about this size. And we can click Ctrl plus U to desaturate this a bit. And let's set this to lighten. And let's key out some of the shadows a little bit. Okay. And we'll shrink this down to about this scale. And just adjust this. Okay, and actually I want to enable my depth pass, and I'll create a layer mask and go to image, apply image once again to get my depth into my mask so that these waterfalls are actually reacting with the objects around them in terms of their depth. Okay, let's disable this. And now our waterfalls are corresponding to the depth. But I want to specifically cut out this temple a little bit with using the waterfall behind it. So what I'll do is I'll just go to image curves, image adjustments curves, and again change it so that the black starts around here and the white somewhere behind. Let's try this. Okay, so now that's quite cool. This is working nicely with my depth. Let me just... Oh, whoops, I moved it without changing the mask. Something like this. Let's just use a soft round brush to erase a little bit here. Okay. And let's increase the feathering here, and let's take these two bits of the waterfall and Control Shift duplicate, and let's just Alt drag this on to copy the mask. And I want to move these slightly more over here maybe. And I want to change this mask a little bit to end after this temple. Let's have a look at this. Okay. Actually, let's duplicate this and add in some more here. And I think we could also grab another bit of a waterfall. Yeah, let's just grab a bunch of this. And let's shrink this. Change it to lighten. Go into blending options and let's key out the shadows. Let's duplicate this, we might use it again. But here, let's put it here, and let me copy this mask. And I'll just use my clone stamp tool with it set to current layer. And I'll sort of just copy, let's use a round brush. Copy this waterfall down. Okay. And actually here I might just delete that a little bit. Okay. Let's actually take this copy and we'll move it up to here just to give a little bit more mass at the top to the waterfall. And let's use the touch tool a little bit here and let's copy this mask. And maybe let's shrink sideways a little bit. Okay. I'm quite happy with that. Let's add a little bit more on this side. I think, let's see if we can just copy one of these and bring it over here. And just flip it. And let's select the whole mask and erase it. And once again, let's use our depth pass and apply image with it. Alright. And here in the mask, we'll want to go to curves and make the borderline here. I think this will do. Okay, so now we have falling water behind here as well, and this is really cool because this helps us silhouette this tower in the foreground, right? So it's kind of like, once again, we're creating a contrast between the dark and the light and the light and the dark, and really getting an interesting look, hopefully, using that technique. Let's shrink this a bit. And here we'll use the dodge tool a little bit. And let's copy it again. Okay, I think we could maybe grab this. And here, if I just expand it a bit and apply, let me create a quick group, put this layer mask on the mask of the group, and here for this layer, let me create an individual mask. And I'll just paint it in here, just have like a little bit of fog where the water lands, maybe. So a little bit of fog that way, and then I can erase the mask to apply it. And then if I click the group to select it and click Ctrl E to merge down, now I have the mask back onto the layer. So I just want to keep this control in case I change my mind about anything later. Alright, so I think that's pretty good. I think we can actually add a little bit more water falling in front of this temple here to define the distance between this dome and these buildings, so we can have a little bit of water in between them to separate them a tiny bit. So let's just copy this again, maybe. Let's see if we can get away with it. And here in the mask, let's just adjust it to have the cutoff point be here somewhere. Okay, and let's move this down here. Let's shrink this down a little bit. So I don't want too much, just a little bit. Here. And here, let's fade out the top so we don't get too much occlusion there. And as you can see now, using these waterfalls, we have silhouetted out a lot of these background buildings that don't really matter. So this was never going to be the focal point anyway, and now we'll just have a silhouette instead of having a lot going on there. So the viewers can focus on the bits that we want them to focus on. Let's duplicate this again, but I'll just take the bottom fog bit and select inverse and delete. And I'll make this fog bit a little bit bigger. If I use the dodge tool. Okay. Here I think we can use the burn tool on the bottom of this a tiny bit. But cool. So I think a little bit more could be done behind this temple still. So let's copy this bit of fog. And I'll just shrink it down here. Move it there. And let's again select everything in our mask, delete, and invert it to make it white. And here, let's go into our depth. And again, let's go to image, apply image. And turn this off here. And here, let's go to curves in our mask. And let's just get the separation to be here around that temple. And even on your mask, you can use the burn tool to, for example, here, make this darker so it's masked out more. And of course, you can do it live while looking at your actual view here. Okay, so that does a good job of cutting this temple out. So we've got this out, made it into silhouette, and this, and this, and this. So that's all quite good. Okay. Next up, we're going to move on to adding some waterfalls straight in the foreground of the image. So let's turn these off. Okay. Alright, let's begin with this building. I think I would like to have some water rolling off of these shanties here, just to add a little bit more interest to this area, as currently there is nothing really going on. So let's have another quick look. I think I might take this image. It's at a pretty similar angle actually. And just copy all this and go back to our project file. And let's just paste this here. And we'll shrink the scale down to maybe a fifth. And flip it like this. And maybe let's just squash it a bit. Okay. And let's maybe, I don't want to overdo this, like I want this to be quite subtle. So this might be, nope. My lasso tool still has a lot of feathers, so let's reduce that to a couple of pixels. And let's copy this. And sorry, before I do that actually, I'll just go into blending options and key out the shadows from the waterfall. Something more like this. And if I create an empty layer underneath it and select my waterfall and click Ctrl+C to merge it down, I now get the cutout. So let's copy this. And let's maybe shrink this down. I want just a slight effect here. Let's put this here. And maybe can shift the top so it looks like it's pouring from there somewhere. And I'll just delete the bottom a little bit. I'll just make a quick brush with some scattering option. Okay. And then let's take another chunk of it. Just trying to get thin streams here. And I'll maybe put it here. And let's zoom in a little bit. I think this could be coming out of this hole in the wall. So let's just create a quick mask and paint around these little rooftops and stuff. No, that was only on 60%. Okay, and let's just delete the little bits of this that we don't want. Okay. And let's grab a little bit more. Yeah, maybe. And let's just grab this bit. And let's put it here. I'll squish it down a little bit. Maybe not that much. here. I'll just take this top of it. Clone stamp a little bit, just to create a direction from which this could have flowed. Okay, so hopefully it looks like the water is coming from here to here to here. Let's let's first erase the edges of this a little bit. Okay, now let's merge all these. We could clone in a little bit water here. Okay. And one thing I'm currently not liking is that there's not much light here at all. I think we could go into our... Let's find it. Our distant light. And let's just have a look at this. Okay, if I create a curves layer and parent it down, and just increase the value here. And invert this. I think I'd like to paint in a little bit extra light here. Something like this, maybe. Maybe even here a little bit. Okay. So now let's go back. Let's delete the spare layer for the waterfall stuff. And let's just select our burn tool with highlights enabled. And let's darken this quite a lot. The water here should be in shadow, so it should not be drawing any attention at all. Or very little of it, at least. Okay, that's nice. And now, I think I'd like to get some waterfalls here up in this corner and this corner, because I'd like to then silhouette some spaceships against them, maybe. Yeah, I think, let's have a look. I think I'll grab some of this stuff. Alright. And paste it here. And let me group these layers and I'll call this foreground. So we'll probably have to rethink a lot of these techniques when we're turning this into a moving shot. All of this, well, a lot of this is currently just for the concept. I think in the background and in the midground and for the little waterfalls, we'll be able to just animate them by adding some noise to the water itself to make it look like it's moving. But in the foreground, we'll have to think of maybe a more clever technique. We'll have to see. So it'll be a little bit of problem solving. So let's just raise the values on this waterfall here. And I'll key out the shadows again. Something like this. Okay, let me duplicate it because I might want to use it again. Let's put this up to the top corner. And I want this to be really in the foreground. So I'm not hesitating to have it be quite large. Let me just make a mask. And we'll paint in a little bit here. And let's maybe copy this. And just change the mask to be slightly different. Okay. And let's take this copy, flip it. And let's put it here. And again, let's just make a mask and roughly paint in a little bit of it. And let's duplicate it. Maybe here we can paint in a tiny bit more. Alright, let's just erase this a little bit. It's a little bit much maybe. Okay. And here maybe we can make this less bright. And this we can stretch a bit. This will be a little bit motion blurred later on, so I'm not worrying too much about the sharpness. And, you know, anything that has movement, if it's a little bit soft, I think it can be forgivable because it would have motion blur in real life. Okay, so this will do for the waterfalls for now. I think we've added a lot of movement and life to the image, and also been able to control a little bit of the detail which has previously built up. So now we're having some of it obscured and only some of it visible. So I think this will do for now. In the next video we'll look at ways to add some tiny details to really improve the look of your image.